There's no confirmation yet as to whether or not this cocktail party ever occurred, but we will, of course, keep you up to date. Kelly?
Jillian Turner reporting from Washington. Thanks, Jillian. Julie?
In the wake of ex-FBI Deputy Directors Andrew McCabe's firing, President Trump's personal attorney now pushing Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to end the special counsel Robert Mueller's Russia investigation. John Dowd saying this in a statement to Fox News: "I pray that Acting Attorney General Rosenstein will follow the brilliant and courageous example of the FBI Office of Professional Responsibility and Attorney General Jeff Sessions and bring an end to alleged Russia collusion investigation manufactured by McCabe's boss, James Comey, based upon a fraudulent and corrupt dossier. Just end it on the merits in light of recent revelations." Let's bring in the political panel now. Jay Chabria is a former senior advisor to Ohio Governor John Kasich and also the managing director of Mercury LLC. Antjuan Seawright is the founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy LLC and also a Democratic strategist. Thank you both for talking to us. Okay, the FBI Deputy Director is basically saying that he is a victim of assault on Mueller's probe. And then just today, the president's lawyer is calling for Rosenstein to just end the Mueller probe altogether. Jay, was the firing fair, first and foremost?
Well, I think what you saw last night when this firing came out at 10 o'clock at night is the president's detractors, as soon as it came out, they started attacking it as politically motivated. And the defenders were ecstatic. I think both things can be true. This, to me, is not the same as the Mueller investigation. It's very different. This is one where career government officials did an investigation, and they probably found something that McCabe did incorrectly, and the firing could be very warranted. The reality is, we don't know what the IG is going to report at the next. A few months down the line in the spring. We don't know what's going to be in that report, and it could be completely justified. I think the detractors of the president need to be very careful because this is not one where they may win on.
Okay, probably found something because according to Jeff Sessions, you know, the Justice Department's Inspector General and the FBI's Office of Professional Responsibility both concluded that McCabe made an unauthorized disclosure to the news media when McCabe authorized a top FBI spokesperson and FBI attorney to provide a reporter with the content of a conversation that he had with a senior official from the Department of Justice. So, Antjuan, why would anyone in the FBI ever release any information to the media about a private conversation?
A couple of things. Number one, I want to thank him for his 20-plus years of dedicated service to one of the most trusted institutions in our democracy, the FBI. Number two, I think the timing of all of this is very ironic, but he will have his day in court because I would imagine there will be some type of lawsuit against DOJ about his firing and due process, especially knowing that he was hours away from benefiting from full retirement from the U.S. government. And number three, I think it's ironic that this thing happened on a Friday night at 10 p.m. when there's been a constant attack on the FBI and our intelligence community since the special prosecutor has essentially turned up the heat on his investigation into Mr. Trump and his campaign, whether there were ties of collusion to Russia. And it's so ironic that it was just yesterday or maybe the day before the announcement came of the firing that the special prosecutor handed down some indictments or some information to look into Trump's finances. So I think it all works together. I think in the end it's very unfortunate. You know, it was unlike Comey, he was a 20-plus year career staffer over at the FBI. And so, you know, it's very unfortunate.
But
Jay,
Antjuan, the IG's office actually conducted these interviews and this investigation. They're the ones that have the report. I just think that before you rush to judgment that this was a political hit job, we have to see what's in the IG report at the end of the day, and that may prove to be the justified firing.
I don't disagree with you on that regard. But if you look at the president's tweets and if you look at the posture about him for the past several months, one can safely conclude that this has to be political political. This has to be. And look at what the president's lawyer said. This was one step in the direction of trying to force the special prosecutor out. I mean, all you have to do is look at the statement that was put out by Donald Trump's lawyer, in which he said initially he was speaking on behalf of the president.
We all do, with all due respect, too, and I want to look at McCabe's history. I mean, he's got nearly 22 years in law enforcement. He has voted Republican every single presidential election except for this past one in 2016. He did not vote. There are many within the FBI that were clearly Democratic. They were clearly Hillary Clinton supporters. This guy didn't vote one way or the other. I want to read part of a statement that was released by McCabe. He says that this attack on my credibility is one part of a larger effort, not just to slander me personally, but to taint the FBI, law enforcement, and intelligence professionals more generally. It is part of this administration's ongoing war on the FBI and the efforts of the special counsel investigation, which continue to this day. Jay, was the McCabe's firing, let me just ask you, do you believe at all an attempt to stop the investigation as McCabe is claiming?
I don't think that the two things are related at all. The Mueller investigation is going to go on, and there's, in my opinion, not support on Capitol Hill to stop the Mueller investigation. And I, for one, support going forward in full transparency in that. I don't think that they're the same thing. I think this McCabe investigation was legitimate, and whether you can argue about the tone of the tweets, you can argue about the timing 2 days before, but that doesn't mean that the firing was incorrect. And that's what we have to remember, too, because I think right now everything's being conflated, and that's not the right way to go about it.
But who can dispute his statement that there's been a serious attack on the FBI and the intelligence community by the party of law and order? It seems like they've become the party of cover and run at this point. Cover up anything that may look bad towards Trump and run away from it. And that's very unfortunate because, look, at the end of the day, presidents come and go, members of Congress come and go, but the FBI will be around. It has always been one of our most sacred institutions in our democracy. And I think we have to be realistic about that. And just because there's no support on Capitol Hill to do away with the Mueller investigation, that doesn't mean that there haven't been efforts to water down the investigation or to take away the credibility from what's going on.
Let's also not forget that the FBI was also investigating Hillary Clinton and her emails and her server, and that investigation, which James Comey had known about and released right before the election, was one that angered a lot of Democrats as well. So it sort of goes both ways. But now that we have a Republican in office, obviously any investigation is going to be seen perhaps as a political witch hunt. But to be fair again, you know, McCabe was fired. He was going to retire literally just 2 days later from the government after nearly 22 years in federal law enforcement. That obviously has got to burn badly to end a successful career this way. But Jay, my question is, since McCabe was retiring anyway, how does this ultimately affect him? And how does this ultimately affect the investigation that he was instead fired instead of retired?
Well, look, I think the optics of this are absolutely terrible. I don't dispute that at all. And look, Antjuan and I will agree that when you do things incorrectly like this, and I think the administration did handle this one incorrectly, what you start to do is you start to have these hardened folks in institutions like the FBI, like the State Department, like other places, and they start to come out against you, and they sharpen their knives, and they take notes. And that's the danger for the Trump administration going down the road, is they're going to have a lot of dedicated enemies towards them. And any missteps by them, they're going to be recorded. And that's what I would caution the administration on. Handle this a little bit better and you'll be better off, but you may be justified in the firing.
And the good news is, according to the announcements or his statement or someone close to him, he kept memos, just like Comey did. And so the American people will know the truth one way or another.
All right.
And that book's coming out next month, the Comey book.
Oh, my God.
There you go. So the story will be broken.
I got to write a book. All right. Jay Chabria, thank you very much. And Antjuan Seawright, thank you both. We look forward to both your books. Oh, my God, would I
you
have
and I.
It would have like 500 chapters.
Not about that, but about her life and my life.
My behind the scenes.
As we continue, a lot going on this Saturday. Robert